Hi students, myself Subramanya. This is my 5th class on reproduction in organisms. I was discussing asexual reproduction in plants, and I had told you that the asexual reproduction in plants is also called as a vegetative propagation. And in my previous class, I had considered the examples like rhizome, tuber, sucker and bulb for this study, and even I had given you the examples of the plants in which the rhizome acts as a vegetative propagule and so on. Students, apart from these examples what we have studied in our previous class, we have some more examples to consider for our study as per the content of your textbook. Okay, let me write the names of those vegetative propagules which have been given in your textbook as examples. The first one is runner. Here in this class, the first example which we are going to study is runner. Okay, and the next one is offset. Next one is offset, and the next one is bulbil, and finally leaf bud. Leaf bud. Okay, so you see here I have marked this as a underground stem modifications. I have told you that in the previous class. A basal part of the stem may be retained by the plant inside the ground, and it may produce branches which will undergo modification to produce this type of structures. But here one difference with respect to runner and offset is that these are not underground stem modifications which helps in vegetative propagation, but these are the modifications which are, especially runner is a modification which is present just above the soil. Probably it will be easy for you to understand if you watch the diagram which I am going to write, so that you will get a correct technical idea which will help you out to answer the neat questions. Okay, students, this is the typical plant, an angiospermic plant. It has got this stem, and this is the soil. Okay, this is the soil, students, and just to assume a situation where this stem, its basal part produces a lateral branch, lateral, slender, creeping branch, right? And why it is referred as a creeping? Creeping, it is creeping because it is just growing above the surface of the soil. A lateral, slender, creeping branch is produced like this, and as because it is the stem, naturally it has to have nodal regions and internodal regions. These are the points which you can assume as nodes, right? And as I have explained you in my previous class, sometime even aerial parts of the plant body can produce roots. I have told you that. And these roots produced from the aerial parts of the plant body, we call them as adventitious roots. So you see here, these nodal points will give rise to adventitious roots like this towards the soil, helping the plant to absorb the nourishment from the soil. And in the very same way, towards the upper side, it can produce leaves like this, or sometimes a stem, leaves like this, a shoot like a part, and sometime later on, after some time, eventually this slender branch may cut off, may get separated from the parental plant, and this fragment can grow as an individual plant, right? Is it not? A vegetative part of the plant has given rise to another plant without the involvement of the flower. It's asexual reproduction, and this asexual reproductive structure, a stem, which is just present above the soil, not within the soil, just above the soil, not even just in the higher point, in the higher position, just above the surface of the soil, a subaerial modification of the stem. Here you see it is an underground modification, here it is a subaerial part, subaerial part. I write it here. Subaerial part. Okay, the subaerial stem, we call this as runner. What is runner, students? Runner is a subaerial, thin, slender, creeping branch which helps in vegetative propagation. Example for the runner is a strawberry. Strawberry, right? So you have got an idea, very clear idea what is runner. a subaerial stem modification helping in vegetative propagation. So now let me go to the next example, offset. Students, even regarding to the offset, the technical aspect is very same. It's a subaerial modification. It's just above the soil here in case of runner, but in case of the offset, this example, it is not the soil. You just assume this situation the very same way. Okay, it is not the soil, but instead it is water. Okay, the plant is growing above the surface of the water, it's simply floating. And in examples like water hyacinth, right, there's a plant by the name water hyacinth. In plant like water hyacinth, right, water hyacinth, it has got the slender stem which is just above the surface. It is floating on the surface of the water, and it has got leaves. Leaves are somewhat like this. Okay, I wipe it off, this one. Okay, leaves are like this. You know what is the structure of the leaf? You know, the typical leaf is like this, you know. In case of water hyacinth, what happens? This part, the photosynthetic part of the leaf is like this, and this petiolar part of the leaf will have enlarged and become a bulb-like structure. And here there is a presence of special type of parenchyma called as a erenchyma. You have studied that in your first year PUC classes. This erenchyma tissue has got lot of air spaces in which there will be a presence of air, and this appears to be inflated, filled with the air. And the leaf which is like this will be formed like this at the nodal point of the stem. The leaves are formed in the tufts in the group, and these air filled leaves will provide a floating effect, provide a buoyancy to the plant so that it will not be submerged inside, so that the plant can easily float, right? So this is the water hyacinth. So now this water hyacinth plant, which grows on the surface of the water, having a horizontal slender stem where there is a presence of adventitious roots and leaves growing towards the upper side, and this one internodal length stem may break somewhere in the middle, and the fragments of the plants can grow into individual plants, and this stem is called as an offset. Okay, technically runner and offset both are almost the same, but offset is seen in aquatic plants like water hyacinth, right students? So now let us go to the next example, that is the bulbil, right? So this runner and offset can be considered as subaerial stem modifications, underground stem modifications. These are subaerial stem modifications. Right, now let us go to bulbil. Students, have you seen agave plant? In Kannada, this agave plant is called buthale, right? The agave plant is an angiospermic plant. It comes under monocotyledone. It comes under the group monocots. It's a monocotyledon plant. So here at the basal point, it is having a whorl of leaves, whorl of thick water storing leaves will be present, a root, and it also has a rhizome like in case of ginger. Okay, it is like this, right, and it produces the stem toward the upper side like this. You can see the presence of the nodal region like this. There is a nodal point, and the nodal region produces axillary buds. Okay, I have told you there will be a presence of axillary buds at the point of nodes. Here there is a presence of axillary buds. In case of agave, students, in case of agave, These axillary buds will become fleshy, they will enlarge, they will become bulbous and they will become fleshy. They store the reserve food material, right, like this. Okay, and after developing until certain time period, after sufficient development, growth, this structure may simply fall off. And once it finds damp place, simply it can grow and develop into a new plant. So here, the generation of the new plant is from the axillary bud. The axillary bud is a fleshy and bulbous, and this fleshy, larger axillary bud, which helps the plant, like in agave, in a vegetative propagation or asexual reproduction, we call that as a bulbil. So what is bulbil? Bulbil is a fleshy axillary bud which acts as vegetative propagule in the plant like agave. Okay. Now let us go to next example, leaf bud. Students in certain plants like bryopillum, right? Bryopillum. I write it here. This example is very important, you have to remember. These are all textbook examples, students, which you have to be knowing always. At any point of time, you shall be able to recall and give us examples. Okay, in bryopillum, leaves are larger, somewhat like this. Leaves are larger, and there is a presence of notches at the margins of the leaf. There is a presence of notches like this, right? Leaf notches are there. At the point of leaf notches, there will be a formation of buds like this. So where you can expect the formation of buds, buds are expected to be formed only at the point of the apices of the plant body, at the axillary point of the plant body, axillary buds at the nodal point of the plant body. But here it is something unusual situation where the leaf margins are producing buds. So these are adventitious buds, they are adventitious roots, here they are adventitious buds. The adventitious buds which are formed over the surface of the leaf, that is on the margin of the leaf, we call them as a epipillous buds. Okay, we also call them as epipillous buds, students. Okay, bryopillum produces epipillous. The meaning of pilla, pilla means pilla or pillow, it is a leaf. Pilla means leaf. So epipillous, over the leaf buds. So bryopillum reproduces with the help of epipillous buds, that is leaf buds. So the bulbil and leaf bud are a part of the complete aerial, they are the part of the plant body which is completely aerial. Whereas here it is underground modification, these four, and runner and offset subaerial modification, and bulbil and leaf bud, they are the aerial modifications of the vegetative part of the plant body. Okay, so if we consider examples of your theory examination, the same which I had given you in my previous class, give example to a vegetative propagule through which strawberry reproduces its runner, and name the vegetative propagule through which water hyacinth reproduces its offset, and give example to a plant with the help of which offset, with the help of give an example to a plant which reproduces with the help of an offset. The example is, the answer is water hyacinth. So the questions can be framed in this way, 1 marks questions, you shall be able to answer them. And students, with respect to the asexual reproduction in organisms, as per your textbook, I have left one thing which I need to discuss, that is a special type of asexual reproduction in amoeba. I will add the information in this class while I conclude asexual reproduction in organisms. You have studied amoeba reproduces asexually by binary fission, that is cell division. Cell division as well reproduction is one and the same in case of amoeba. So here, during unfavorable condition, During favorable condition, amoeba reproduces by binary fission during favorable condition. But during unfavorable condition, what happens? Amoeba is like this. It has got pseudopodia and all, nucleus, contractile vacuole is there. So during unfavorable condition, what happens? The amoeba withdraws its pseudopodia, like this and produces a 3-layered cyst over it, 3-layered cyst. Okay, unfavorable conditions like scarcity of food, high temperature, low temperature, a condition which is not proper for living, that's an unfavorable condition. And unfavorable condition, amoeba has withdrawn its pseudopodia, it has to survive, it has to strive through, it has to retain itself. And with the return of a favorable condition, what happens? This amoeba which is there within the cyst, we also call this as encystation. Encystation, amoeba has undergone encystation. With the return of the favorable condition, the amoeba which is present inside the cyst will rapidly undergo division. In the sense, first there occurs nuclear division. Okay, by rapid nuclear division, many nuclei are formed like this, many nuclei are formed, and each nuclei will receive a bit of cytoplasm, like this, a bit of cytoplasm. And these structures with a nucleus and a bit of cytoplasm, we call them as a pseudopodiospores. We call them as pseudopodiospores. Pseudopodiospores, right? And this cyst wall will be broken. It will be broken. The amoeba will break open that. Okay, the encysted structure, it is broken, and these pseudopodiospores are released outside, like this. And each pseudopodiospore will develop into new amoeba, right? So the process of asexual reproduction with the help of pseudopodiospores through the process of encystation, students, we call that as sporulation. Okay, when amoeba reproduces with the help of sporulation during unfavorable condition. And what are those structures which are formed during the process of sporulation which helps in asexual reproduction? They are pseudopodiospores, right? Students, with all these examples which I have given you so far, I think that you have understood the asexual reproduction in the various examples of the organisms which have been given in your textbook. Okay? And before going to end the discussion of asexual reproduction, I would like to show you some photographs pertaining to these examples so that it will help you and will be a sort of backup for you to write your answers in your examination as well to answer your NEET examination. Okay? Okay, students, here I have a photograph of a rhizome, shunti, it's a ginger, and you can see here horizontally growing fleshy stem. It has given rise to a shoot part towards the upper side as well. If you carefully observe, you can see here there is a presence of internodal regions, and also small scale leaves can also be observed. Okay, so this is the rhizome and you are very familiar with that. It's a popular example, students, right? You know this. This is the potato, a tuber, and I have told you that there will be a presence of axillary buds, what we call as eyes. You see here, it's a potato, a kind of potato where the axillary bud has given rise to, is giving rise to a new plantlet. You can see the formation of the adventitious roots here at the point of the axillary bud, which is also called as an eye, and you can see the presence of the shoot part which is growing towards the upper side. Okay, student, this is the tuber, it's a alugede. And here I have got a plant which I have chosen from internet, and you can very clearly understand until here this is the soil part, the surface of the soil. Here it's an underground stem, students, and you can see the way how the underground stem has undergone modification, and the terminal part of the branches of the stem which remains a subterranean underground have enlarged so as to produce a tuber-like structure, a tuber, a vegetative propagule. In case of potato, it is also referred to be a solanum tuberosum, right? This is tuber. And then here it's a diagram which wonderfully makes you to understand the structure of sucker. You see, students, this is the soil surface. Just you assume this is the chrysanthemum plant. You see here it's a stem, underground stem. It is producing a slender lateral branch which is growing inside the soil, and somewhere after a while it will go erect and produce a different plant. Here it may cut off and it will produce a different plant. Here it's a sucker. Okay, let us go to next example. It's a bulb. I have explained you thoroughly the structure of the bulb, an onion, right? Here you can see the leaves which are growing towards the upper side. Here one leaf covers over the another leaf. The leaves are fleshy, and in the bottom part there is a flattened stem is there, a flattened stem. You can see the presence of the roots here, right? And I will go to another diagram. You see here, this is the way how the onion grows. The surface layer of the soil is being flushed out, students. It is present inside the ground, and while harvesting, the soil is taken out and onion bulbs are collected. And similar to this, even a garlic is grown. It's a bulb onion, and you see here it's runner. You see this is the stem root part, and it is producing lateral branches like this, lateral branch. Strawberry, I gave you the example. These lateral branches at the point of nodal point, again they are producing the adventitious roots, and they do produce the shoot towards the upper side, and sometime later this may cut off here and it may produce a new plant. Fragments, each individual fragment can produce a new plant. It's a runner, and it's a eichhornia, water hyacinth. And you see here there's leaves are very beautiful leaves. Here bulbous petiole is there which is filled with the air, and you can see here there's an offset. This is one tuft of leaves, and here another tuft of leaves. Both are connected here by a horizontal branch which is present over the surface of the water, and we call this as an offset. And it may break here and form two fragments, and they can become individual plants. And one thing I need to add here, from the textbook, students, and this plant, the eichhornia, water hyacinth, it's a native of South America, Amazon basin, river Amazon in Peru. A native of South America. It's an exotic plant. It's not a native of India. This plant was brought to India because of its beautiful flower and beautiful leaves. Now it's an unwanted plant. It is not going to produce anything which is beneficent to the mankind. So any unwanted plant, we call that as a weed. So here this plant, because of the offset and because of a very environmental condition what we have in India, it will multiply rapidly, and it will spread completely over the surface of the lake and the ponds. So in your textbook they write that it's a most invasive weed, and because it covers the surface of the water, it will cut off the supply of oxygen to those animals which are present in the water, and they are suffocated, and it has become a menace, and especially in the Bengal region it's such a big problem, and it is called a terror of Bengal. So name the plant which is called as a terror of Bengal, water hyacinth. Okay, there is the additional information regarding to water hyacinth for you. Next here it is a agave plant, a kind of plant which is relevant to agave. You see here, you can see the rosette of leaves, leaves which are born as a whorl. We call them as a rosette of leaves. Here the leaves are fleshy, and you can see the presence of the stem here. Here there is a presence of bulbils, right? Have another one image. You can see here this is the stem. At the nodal point you can see the formation of the bulbils. These are the fleshy buds. This will fall off and they will give rise to another plant. Okay, so it's a wonderful photograph. You can simply look the way how the leaf margins, this is the leaf margin, has given rise to adventitious buds, right? These adventitious buds can simply fall off and give rise to a new plantlet. Okay, what is this? Which is the example? It's a bryophyllum, students, right? So that's all. The examples which have been given in your textbook, and I am going to give you some more additional examples and make a detailed explanation in my NEET class. Okay, in addition to that, in addition to this class, I will give you another video where I discuss NEET questions, students. And thank you for listening to me and watching this video. Thank you all. I will come back in my next video. Thank you.